Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today, we are going to be ranking all of the Truffade vehicles within Grand Theft Auto Online in tier list form. Now there's not many Truffade vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online, however there are just enough to make a tier list video, so I figured I would do this today. Now I'm going to be really honest, I like every single Truffade car in the entire game, so it was a little bit hard for me to rank these in the order that I did. However, you can rest assured that this list is 100% factual and cannot be argued with. I'm right. If you disagree, you're wrong. To start off the entire list, of course, we have the Z-Type. Now this is the cheapest Truffade car. It is also the only Truffade car in the entire game. It is not a supercar. It's the slowest, and it's most definitely the oldest. Now with all this being said, the Z-Type being an F tier, it is unfortunate. However, I have to put a car in every single tier, and I've had some advice recently to, just rank the cars based on how good they are in an overall sense, but the problem is I've already done so many tier lists in the form where I have to rank all the manufacturer cars versus each other. So somebody has always got to be F tier, somebody's always got to be C, B, A, and S tier. And the Z-Type is no different. Now this is not to say that the Z-Type is a bad car at all whatsoever. This thing is of course within the sports classic category in Grand Theft Auto Online, and for $950,000 it is actually a pretty good bargain car for the category. Now unfortunately it's not the best handling wise, it also doesn't have the best acceleration. However, something that it does have is the best top speed out of any sports classic car, not counting HSW vehicles. Obviously, if you guys are playing on the expanded and enhanced edition, even though that's not what they call it, but that's what I'm going to call it. Of course, you do have access to the Turismo Classic HSW, so it is going to have a higher top speed than this thing. However, if you are on last gen, the Z-Type still, I do believe, remains as the highest top speed vehicle within the entire sports classic category. So that is pretty impressive in itself. Now the only other real problem with the Z-Type is this thing has absolutely no customization, which is kind of a shame. However, it is a fun car to drive. I have to say I have been enjoying this thing. Now, the Z-Type is not a bad vehicle by any stretch. For $950,000, you really cannot go wrong with this thing. If you've never owned a Z-Type, I'd definitely say I recommend trying to pick one up because it's a pretty cool car. It's pretty underrated. However, we do have the new DLC coming really soon, so I would maybe hold off until after that comes out. Anyway guys, that is it for the Truffade Z-Type in F tier, and that is also it for F tier. So it's time to move on to C tier. To start off with C tier, of course, we have the Truffade Adder. Now this thing goes for $1 million, and at one point this was the most expensive car in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. I remember it very well in the early days. If you ever saw somebody with an Adder, you knew that person was probably money glitching. The Adder is actually my favorite car in Grand Theft Auto Online, so if you guys thought this list was going to be biased, me putting it in C tier should maybe change your mind. This is my favorite car for many different reasons, but I'm going to try to stay away from why it's my favorite car and just why it's a pretty good car. Now normally in C tier we have some pretty awful vehicles. However, on this list we do not. Of course, we have the Adder. Now the Adder has really good acceleration in my opinion. It's also got a really respectable top speed for how old this car actually is. Its biggest downfall is probably its handling. It does have all-wheel drive, which is nice, and it can pull you out of a corner really quickly. However, it doesn't have spoiler options, so it does kind of suffer when it comes to downforce and the ability to move very quickly through corners. However, it still gets down, it still gets, still gets the job done. Just maybe not as well as some of the other supercars in the game. What I will say about the Adder is it does feel very light, so there isn't really the need for crazy downforce on this car. And for $1 million in today's GTA Online, it is a pretty reasonably priced car for the performance that you get. There is one problem with the Adder, and that is this thing has absolutely not one customization feature that you can do to it to make it different than anyone else's other than just color and rim choice. So that is probably my biggest pet peeve with the Adder. I love this thing with all my heart truly, but it just is not the best car ever, even though I want it to be. If you guys have never owned an Adder, it is definitely a car that I would recommend checking out. It's fun, it's cool to drive, and even without the customization options, I have seen some pretty unique Adders out there. So again, maybe after this DLC comes out, if you got some more money lying around, maybe go ahead and check out the Adder. Very cool car, definitely my favorite car in the entire game. So that's it for the Adder, and that's it for C tier. Let's move on to B tier. Next up in B tier, we have the Truffade Nero. Now, the Nero is based off of the Bugatti Chiron in real life, and it goes for $1,440,000, which is a pretty reasonable price considering just how good this car actually is. Now, the Nero has great acceleration, it's got a pretty fantastic top speed, and it's also got very good handling. On top of all of these things, it's also got an active rear spoiler, as you guys can see on the back of the vehicle here. When I slow down, it even acts as an air dam for extra braking, which is pretty cool. I don't know that that's actually 100% functional, but what I do know is that the spoiler, when it is up, actually does increase the downforce on your car. So that is really cool. Now, the Nero is the only Truffade vehicle with an active rear spoiler, so that is just a cool little feature for you guys right there. It's also got tons and tons of customization, which is always nice to have on supercars, especially on Truffade cars, because, well, with the last two, we didn't get any customization, so with the Nero, we got a pretty huge improvement over that. The Nero is a great car. It used to be one of the fastest supercars in the game, and I would rank it probably just outside of the top 10 fastest supercars around its circuit. Right now in Grand Theft Auto Online, I'd say it's probably maybe in like 17th place, something like that. Could be lower, could be higher. But it is a pretty competitive supercar. Even by today's standards, you're probably not going to win, but I mean, you might have a slight chance. But if there's HSW vehicles around, I wouldn't even try, honestly. I just wouldn't even try. That's not to say it's a bad car, it's just maybe not the best for racing anymore, but it is still pretty good. Overall, the Nero is one of my favorite Truffade cars. I mean, there's only 5 in the game, so it's, you know, it's not hard to be one of my favorites, I guess, but I definitely think it is probably the best looking Truffade car in the entire game. Even as much as I like the Adder, I do think that the Nero really does have a pretty unique styling to it and everything. So definitely check out the Nero if you guys haven't already. Just so you know, you can only buy this thing on Benny's. So if you're looking for it on Legendary Motorsport or Southern San Andreas Super Autos and you can't find it, that is because it is only sold on Benny's. So go check it out. Definitely a really, really good car. That's it for B tier. It's time to move on to A tier. Next up for A tier, we of course have the Truffade Nero Custom. Now, the Nero Custom is actually technically a separate car from the Nero because it is a whole other upgrade of the car within Benny's. So this thing costs $1.44 million plus the Benny's upgrade, and then all of the Benny's options are obviously extra on top of that. So this thing's probably going to run you around, I'd say, $2 million to get it into the custom variant. It's been a long time since I've upgraded it, so forgive me if that figure is not 100% correct, but I believe it's around $2 million just to make the Nero into the Nero Custom. Now, the Nero Custom is ranked ahead of the Nero because it has more customization options, because it is of course upgradable within Benny's, so that is going to unlock quite a few more options. On top of that, the Nero Custom is also a little bit more competitive than the regular Nero. It ditches the active rear spoiler in favor of a fixed rear spoiler, which a lot of the options are really, really cool. Even the stock spoiler is absolutely sweet on this thing, so it is pretty neat. However, the active rear spoiler is really cool too. Now, the Nero Custom gets a slight upgrade in engine power, so the acceleration is a little bit better. The top speed is ever so slightly higher. I would say overall the handling is probably about the same. However, at low speeds, I guess instead of having the active rear wing, having a fixed wing that gives you downforce all the time would technically be slightly helpful. So I would say that the handling is a little bit better on the Custom as well. So more customization, faster in pretty much every single way. The Nero Custom is a logical upgrade from the regular Nero. Now, that's not to say that I like the Nero Custom more. I actually think that the Nero is a much better car than the Nero Custom for everything except for racing. I think the Nero just looks better without all of these, you know, crazy options on it and everything. However, this car does look really cool, and I don't think anyone can really deny that. The Nero Custom is truly a great car, and it's definitely the second best Truffade vehicle in the entire game, at least in terms of performance, as of the time of recording this video. So again, if you're interested, go ahead and check out the Nero and the Nero Custom. However, be aware that once you make the Nero into the Nero Custom, you cannot revert it back into the regular Nero. So just keep that in mind. You might want to end up getting 2 of them so you can have the Custom and the regular Nero, but that is going to cost you a lot of money, so just, you know, be wary, that's all. Anyway guys, that is it for A tier, and that is it for the Nero Custom. So that means it's time to move on to the #1 Truffade vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online, and I'm sure that you guys can probably guess what car it is. So let's get into it. And of course, the best Truffade car in Grand Theft Auto Online is the Truffade Thrax. Now the Thrax, it just is the best Truffade vehicle. There's no denying it. It's the fastest around a circuit. It's got the most customization. It's probably the coolest looking as well. And it just is the best, let's be honest here. This car comes in at $2.3 million, which in the supercars category, all things considered, is not really too bad. Now the Thrax actually at the time of recording this video is on sale, so if you are planning to get a Thrax, now might actually be the best time. However, like I've mentioned a few times before in this video, make sure you have enough money for the DLC as well. Now performance wise, the Thrax absolutely blows every other Truffade car out of the water. This thing has so much grip and it goes exactly where you want it to go. There's almost no understeer on this car, and there's also no oversteer. It's actually like completely perfectly balanced, which is really high praise because there's not many cars in GTA Online that can even do that. The Thrax has lightning fast acceleration, it's got a really decent top speed, and as I've kind of talked about with the handling, it's absolutely fantastic. You can send this thing through corners as fast as you want, and it will pretty much always go around them, so long as you're being, semi-reasonable. Not even reasonable, just semi-reasonable. This thing's gonna go around the corner. Like I mentioned before, it's also got tons and tons of customization, so that is a nice feature to have with this. Obviously, everybody likes a car that's got lots of customization. The Thrax is no different. And I feel like the Thrax is one of the Truffade vehicles that you can make the most unique. As you guys can see, mine, I do believe that I have olive green and metallic black on this thing. And I think that this build is maybe one of my favorites that I've done all year. Definitely really cool. It's also another car that you can glitch the stock wheel color on to make it black, or well, whatever color you really want, honestly. I've done black on my car because I think that these wheels look absolutely sinister in black, but unfortunately without a glitch you can't really change the stock wheel color, but it does work on this car, so that's awesome. The Thrax also sounds pretty good. I feel like the Truffade cars all kind of have a very similar sound effect. I'd say the Adder is by far the loudest, but they all sound pretty good. Anyway guys, that is it for the Truffade Thrax. This thing is definitely the best Truffade car in the entire game. You guys should definitely pick one of these up. It is on sale, so now is a good time to get it, but make sure, like I said, you have enough money to cover the DLC as well for everything that you're going to want to get when that eventually comes out here. Anyway guys, there you have it. That has been the ultimate Truffade vehicle tier list in Grand Theft Auto Online. If you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more like this, a like is of course appreciated. If you didn't enjoy the video, and if you're a hater, the dislike button is there for you. Comment down below, let me know what you think of my rankings, and also what rankings you want to see done in the future. I've already done a bunch of these, so if you haven't seen all of them, definitely go check them out before you comment, because I get a lot of people asking me to rank cars that I've already ranked, so just go check. I have a playlist, this one will be in it. Go check them out. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.